I used to think a better life was something you could move to. Like it was a place on a map. A set of coordinates. Like if you just got the geography right, everything else would follow. So I moved to Ireland. And what happened next? Well, it wasn't what I expected. It was harder in some ways, simpler in others, and more honest than anything I'd lived before. But better? Yes. Just not in the way I thought. Before I moved, I had a very specific picture of what a better life looked like. Less rush. More time. The feeling of waking up in the morning without that immediate weight on your chest, the one that arrives before you've even fully opened your eyes and says, you have too much to do and not enough time to do it. I wanted to live somewhere slower. Somewhere that hadn't decided that business was the same thing as success. Somewhere where work ended when work ended, where people sat at tables after dinner not because they were waiting for something else but because they were still enjoying the thing they were already doing. I had seen images of Ireland. Read accounts. Spoken to people who'd been there, visited, considered moving. And the picture that formed in my mind was of a country that had somehow resisted the particular kind of exhaustion that had worn me down. A place where the priorities were different. Where the pace was human. I want to be honest with you, I was running from something. Not in a dramatic way. Not from any crisis or catastrophe. Just from the slow accumulation of a life that had stopped feeling like mine. From days that were full but somehow empty. From the persistent feeling that I was moving fast in a direction I hadn't consciously chosen. Ireland, in my mind, was the answer to that. And in some ways, in more ways than I expected, it was. What I hadn't prepared for was the process. The gap between arriving somewhere and actually living there is larger than most people account for. I arrived in Ireland with my better life in my head, and what I found instead was a country that was real, complicated, sometimes frustrating, occasionally breathtaking, and entirely indifferent to the version I'd imagined. The practical things were real. The housing situation in Ireland, particularly in Dublin and the larger cities, is genuinely difficult. Rents are high. The cost of living is real. These aren't complaints, they're facts that anyone considering the move needs to understand. I had done my research, budgeted carefully, and it was still harder than I'd expected. The social adjustment was also real. Making friends as an adult in a new country is slow, unglamorous work. Irish people are warm, genuinely warm, but that warmth takes time to deepen into actual friendship. The first months were lonelier than I admitted to people back home, partly because loneliness felt like a strange thing to report when you had just moved somewhere beautiful by choice. And the weather, I say this not to complain, but because it genuinely matters, is an adjustment. Ireland is grey more often than it isn't. The rain is real and frequent and present in a way that takes time to make peace with. There were days in that first winter when the sky hadn't seemed to move in weeks, and the grey settled into my chest in a way I hadn't anticipated. These were the real things. The practical weight of what it actually means to build a life somewhere from the beginning. And I want to say something about them that nobody in the Better Life content ever says. They were hard. Genuinely hard. And that hardness mattered. Not because it made me regret the decision, but because it made everything that came after feel real in a way that comfort never could have. The better life I was looking for arrived eventually. But it arrived in forms I hadn't thought to write on any list. It arrived in sleep. I started sleeping in a way I hadn't slept in years. Not longer necessarily, just more completely. Without the background noise of anxiety that I'd become so used to, I'd stopped recognizing it as anxiety and started calling it just the way my mind worked. It arrived in time. Not more time exactly, I worked similar hours, had similar responsibilities. But my relationship with time changed. It stopped feeling like a resource I was constantly failing to manage correctly. It started feeling like something I was actually living inside, rather than something I was always running behind. It arrived in the mornings. In Ireland, mornings are different. The light, when it comes gently. The pace of the country waking up doesn't demand anything from you before you're ready. And I found that starting the day without already feeling behind created a completely different kind of day. A day that felt more like mine. It arrived in conversations. Irish people, once you've moved past the initial friendliness into the slower, deeper connection that only time can build, talk differently than the people I'd been surrounded by. Less about what they're achieving, more about how they're actually doing. Less performance, more presence. And being around that regularly, over time, started to change the conversations I had inside my own head too. It arrived in small things that I would have walked past before, a walk in a place that was quietly, genuinely beautiful. The particular sound of rain on a roof when you're warm inside. The feeling of a Sunday that didn't need to be productive to be worthwhile. A cup of tea at a window while the light did something specific to the clouds outside, and the strange, simple thought, this is enough. This is actually enough. And it arrived in something I can only call permission. The feeling, which I had lost somewhere in the years of doing things correctly and efficiently and in the right order, that it was okay to simply be. Not be productive. Not be improving. Not be working toward the next version of myself. Just be, in a specific place, on a specific afternoon, without the quiet nagging that this somehow wasn't enough. That feeling, for me, is the better life. Not a destination. Not a setting. Not a set of circumstances I finally got right. It's a quality of presence that this country, over time and with patience, helped me find inside myself. I came to Ireland for a better life. And I found one. But it looked nothing like the image I had carried in my head on the flight over. It was harder than the image, the practical challenges were real and sometimes exhausting, and there were months when I questioned the decision the way you question anything that costs you something real. But it was also more than the image. Because the image I had carried was of a life that looked better from the outside, calmer, more scenic, more admirable. What I found was a life that felt better from the inside. And the distance between those two things, I came to understand, is everything. Ireland didn't fix what was broken. I want to say that clearly, because I think the idea that a place can fix you is one of the most beautiful and most harmful stories we tell ourselves. Ireland didn't fix anything. But it created the conditions in which I could. Quietly, slowly, without ceremony. Just time, and silence, and a country that didn't ask me to perform my happiness. I'm a different person than I was when I arrived. Not better in any simple sense, I don't think places make you better or worse like that. But more honest. More present. More willing to let the life I'm actually living be the life I'm living, rather than treating it as a rehearsal for something I haven't gotten to yet. That, for me, is the better life. And I'm still in it. Still arriving at it. Still learning, slowly and imperfectly, what it means. If any of what I described resonates with you, if you've been carrying your own version of the better life somewhere in the back of your mind, this channel is for that conversation. Not the postcard version. The real one. The honest one, with the difficulty and the tenderness and the small moments that don't photograph well but end up mattering more than most things that do. Subscribe if you want more. And leave a comment below, tell me what your better life looks like in your head right now. I'll read every single one. And I'll be here.